Welcome to Critony Entertainment. I'm Chris,
And I'm Bree.
and I can't believe this. We used to be the Malk of
Yeah.
YouTube-based podcasts, but today we have a very special guest. Andy is back joining us again. Uh, but
Yay,
Hey.
Andy!
but also we are, and we can hardly believe this. We are either joined by Jonathan Ying himself or a very elaborate and hilarious prank that I greatly respect. So, Jonathan, hello.
Yeah, it's tough to tell these days, isn't it?
You know,
Nice
well,
to be here.
fantastic to meet you in this digital environment that we all live in these days. Andy reached out to me and said you'd be interested in coming on the show, or you'd be willing to. I guess interested is probably too strong a phrase, but willing to come on the show. And I did for several minutes look at the screen and think he was pranking me in a big way.
Yeah, Andy, we were very, very sure that you were just doing like the most elaborate prank ever. And we were kind of like having a moment of like, good for him.
I respect
This
it.
is amazing.
I respect
Good for
it.
him.
But
Shucks, this
I
is all
thought we
very
were friends.
validating emotionally.
Well, I mean, think of it from our perspective. What reason did we have to believe? I mean, at the time of recording this, we have 95 followers on YouTube, and I think 2 of them are me and Bree on our alternate accounts.
Shh. Those are definitely new people. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So imagine our surprise. So it's awesome. We really appreciate you being here, and we just wanted to just chat with you about game design. Really, you have a lot of games out there, some of which we've considered buying.
Just that one that I don't know, put a couple.
No, we actually almost did pick up Bargain Quest.
We
Is
did
that
actually
what it's
pick up,
called?
yes. Bargain Quest? Yeah.
We picked it up at a local game store, and we saw we knew nothing about it. And usually when I find a game I know nothing about, I Google it and see if people have good comments to say about it. And I didn't even do that because we saw a game by Jonathan Ying, so it went right in the shopping basket. And then our 7-year-old talked us out of buying it.
Yeah, because
Aw.
you got beat out.
7-year-olds, my one true enemy.
You got beat out by Godzilla. So,
Yeah, he wanted a Godzilla fighting game, so we'll try that one again later.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I would have probably made the same call at most ages I have ever been.
Fair enough. It looks like a cool Godzilla game. We bought it 3 weeks ago. We still haven't played it because that's how good at life we are.
Yeah.
But
no, I played it. I actually told him about it.
I don't remember stuff.
I'm a huge Godzilla fan.
See? Yes.
Absolutely. I'm here for any and all Godzilla games, and if it's the one I'm thinking of, I believe that one's quite good.
Yeah, it's the one by Funko that actually has like the big models that, of course, we're going to make Chris paint. So.
Oh, that one's so fun.
That one's good. All right, fantastic. I like where this is going. Yeah, I don't trust anybody.
The only thing is the rules. The rules are a little funky. You got to go through them. They don't really explain a whole lot in the rule book, but once you get into the game, it has a certain rhythm. But it's tons of fun.
Yeah, it's got a lot of that destroy all monsters melee energy, which I quite enjoy.
There you go. That's
awesome. Well, we had the King of Tokyo for him, but this one looks like a lot more action. So that's fantastic. Well, obviously, we're not here to talk about Bargain Quest or Godzilla. People who
alas.
I mean, right?
Well, we can talk about that if that's what you prefer to talk about. But the people who join the channel really are interested in playing Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. That you have spearheaded. I'm curious, were you brought on to design that game, or did you kind of come up with the idea?
So basically, the way I got onto the project was that I'd known Scott for a little while, through conventions and stuff, and I had just moved to San Diego, which is where Renegade Games is based.
Okay.
And when I had moved, Scott was like, "Oh, hey, we should definitely get lunch and talk about potentially working together." I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And in our first lunch meeting together, he was mentioning that Renegade was had just started getting into licensed IPs because they hadn't done any licensed games before then, really. And so we were talking about it, and he was like, "So, what do you know about Power Rangers?" And I just had to be like, "Scott, I gotta tell you, don't do this to me." It was one of those situations where it was I couldn't. Really, I didn't want to tell Scott how much I loved Power Rangers because then he could get away with paying me nothing and I would have said yes to the deal.
I feel that.
But yeah, I was I'm very familiar with the IP. I'm a big fan, and this was sort of one of the things that Renegade that I'm that makes me really excited to continue working with them and to had me excited early on was that they were like very certain that they wanted to have these games helmed by people who really knew the IP. Because like I have been, I've worked with studios and stuff with whom like they have an IP, they have like get a random game designer, one that they've like had cooking for a while, and they'll just slap them together, and it'll be an okay game. But either often sold mostly through the IP or using the IP to leverage the game or whatever. But like my background at Fantasy Flight very much was we have an IP. What is the best possible game we can make for that IP is like kind of the philosophy that I was trained in. So with Scott, he was like, yeah, so we have this license. If you have any ideas for a game for this, we'd love to have you on board. And I was like, oh man, I went home and immediately started cooking. And we sort of worked things out. Had to pitch it to Saban because that was back when Saban still had the license. And that was very exciting because Scott knew people at Saban, which is kind of how we got our foot in the door, right? And Scott knew that there had never really been a good Power Rangers board game. Right. Not to knock the old like that one where like you fight a big cardboard Goldar. Like those old soup. Like,
I think both Chris and I are sitting here going, yeah, no, I played that game.
I actually still use that cardboard Goldar as a nighttime teddy bear.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. But yeah, so like there hadn't been like one for like hobby gamers. Like a lot of people who grew up with Power Rangers are now like, adult board gamers. And so we want to try and make something to suit that fan base, which we felt was underserved. And I've been given a truly alarming amount of creative control over the game over the course of its lifespan. So I feel deeply blessed to work on this project.
Well, you've done an amazing job with it. And I'll say, actually, you say hobby gamers, and that fits Bree and I to a T. I'm a 20-year miniature wargamer, and Bree is probably, a 10 or 12-year miniature wargamer.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range.
Hell yeah.
So we're definitely hobby gamers that have a very extensive game collection. And Here is the Good definitely passed our smell test of IP games. We have a general rule on IP games that says if we were to strip this away, if we killed your art and just made like a cardboard circle and used generic cards without any reference names, and we replaced all the figures with wooden cubes, do we still have a good game on our hands? And sadly, in a lot of IP games, you don't. You lean on the IP, but this one in particular is a phenomenal game. And actually, I'd say it probably got our whole family back into Power Rangers because I was a big Mighty Morphin fan when I was 8 years old in the target demographic, and Bree is a couple years older than me, but she was kind of on the high end of that demographic as well. She saw Mighty Morphin, and we both just kind of shelved it for 25 years until we had a kid who came home from daycare and goes, I heard about this thing called Power Rangers.
And we were like, hold on, buddy. Hold up, child. Come here.
The next thing we know, we're binging and we see your game at a game store and we buy it. And we have everything now.
Actually, that was the best part is our little one at the time, he's
5?
5? Yeah, 5.5. He spotted it out of the corner of his eye at one of our friendly local game stores, and he was like, Mommy, there's a Power Rangers game. And I was like, hold up, what?
And because I don't like money, I bought
it. Yeah, it was one of those things that we're like, oh, buddy, maybe Santa will bring it for you. Just you wait.
Well, now it brought him Santa.
Yeah, and now it brought him Santa. It has been almost every major holiday since has been Julian getting
more Power Ranger stuff, and we painted up for him, obviously, or we wouldn't have a channel. And we've gotten off of it a little bit with baseball season and whatnot, but when we were playing this game every single weekend with him for the longest time, and then baseball season kind of slowed that down. But when baseball's over, I think we're going to be right back into that.
Yep, and hopefully we'll get back our adult gaming group too, because we do much more complicated.
We did an adult gaming group, and our first game night, I almost kicked one of my friends out of the house because he showed up in a Green Ranger shirt with a dragon dagger.
Yeah, no, Tom.
And it's no secret how I feel about Green Ranger. But that's awesome. They give you an incredible amount of creative control. So my follow up to that would be, I see a lot of I don't want to say complaining, but let's be honest, gamers complain all the time. I see a semi disgruntled group that loves to rant about how it's time to be done with Mighty Morphin property and do the other stuff. Are you the one to blame for the huge amount of Mighty Morphin stuff? And if you are, thank you, because I like that stuff better than the rest.
I mean, So it's a mixed bag, right? Like I, of course, grew up with Mighty Morphin. Like that was, the first series I watched as a kid. So I'm personally very fond of it. My favorite Ranger is Adam Park. Like I've got, a huge amount of affection for that particular set of characters. Although it's also true that they are the most iconic Power Rangers. They're the ones that a lot of the marketing is pushed into as well. And the comics primarily focus on Mighty Morphin.
Oh, 100%. And they're doing a great job in the comics.
Oh, absolutely. God, I love the comics. Yeah. And you may notice we do get a lot of comic art for the game.
Yes, which, I was going to ask about that later, actually.
Yeah, but that often will inform some of what we do, what we end up producing, because if we, if there's good comic art, it saves us a lot on, commissioning new art.
Absolutely. Yeah. Art's not cheap.
No.
Yeah, art is not cheap. And so, like, those get a little bit easier to justify when it comes to, like, oh, hey, we could totally, do this or that. And, yeah, like, I think, in particular, it was kind of funny. The Forever Rangers pack, which was probably the peak of the, like, why are we doing more Mighty Morphin Rangers? Mm-hmm. That one was an interesting situation because we had gotten a whole lot of messages after the original Kickstarter of people who, like, we're annoyed that, like, if I want to play with Jason and Rocky as Mighty Morphin Red, I need to buy 2 core games. That seems like a lot because the core game is not cheap. And so we were like, okay, well, we could justify doing an alternate sculpt and an alternate pose and, like, building out whole new decks to suit their character abilities. Because I'd given them special abilities to suit their particular Ranger themes. But, you could get really expressive with having a whole combat deck tailored to those abilities. And so that was sort of what fueled the idea of us doing the Forever Rangers pack, which was released to somewhat, I'm going to say, mixed response. And, the people who enjoyed it quite enjoyed it, and the people who didn't want more Mighty Morphin, well, they kind of skipped it and went on to the next one. That's totally okay. But it did sort of have us pivot a little bit. So, we're unlikely to do, like, say, more, like, re-release of stuff that people got in the Kickstarter box, because the Kickstarter box is already readily available in most places, and most of the core fan base already own it, right? So it's like serving that audience, we probably want to, serving our existing player base, we probably want to do more new stuff, which is perfectly fine by me. And yeah, I think the other thing about fan disgruntlement is just, like you had mentioned yourself, you watched Mighty Morphin as a kid and then kind of moved on with your life, which is just kind of how Power Rangers is, right? It's not like, Star Wars or Star Trek where, like, many people will carry it with them as part of their identity for, like, their whole lives. Power Rangers often, very often, it's like whichever one was on when you were, 9 to 12 years old, that was your Power Rangers, and that's the one you're fond of. So, like, even back when we first started demoing the game, like, every person would ask me, like, when are you doing Dino Charge? When are you doing Ninja Storm? When are you doing, and it was always a different one. So, like, it's a very stratified fan base, which I find very fascinating. And I find it very validating to the game design that there are a lot of people who will, like, buy characters for seasons that they don't own or that they aren't that interested in, just because they're really interested in the character's combat kit or how they play. And some people have gotten interested in seasons that they hadn't seen just because it's like, oh, this character seems really cool in the game. I wonder what their deal is. And so, yeah, that's been really fun.
That was me in Time Force Pink, actually.
Yes, Time Force Pink has become one of Bree's favorite thanks to the game.
I'm kind of, like, sitting here waiting for the little one to get done with all of his stuff so I could be like, buddy, do you want to watch Time Force? We should watch Time Force. Let's go watch Time Force now. Just so,
Well, now it's off of Netflix. We got to figure that out. Now, yeah. I want to make sure Andy gets a chance to ask a question too. I don't want to monopolize this since he's the one who set this up. So thank you again, Andy, for doing that. But you said you got a lot of art from the comics, and the comic material fed a lot of stuff. Have any of the Ranger actors done any work on the game, or have you had a chance to talk to any of them and get ideas from them on it? Because I know we met Jason Narvi and Paul Schreier, and I know Narvi is very unhappy with his depiction as the Parrot Ranger in the comics. So I didn't know if you had any Ranger actors you got a chance to talk to while working on this.
Yeah, the Bulk and Skull pack, like, were played for laughs definitely in that art piece, which we based those characters on. But I mean, hey, like they were in the Mighty Morphin suits. They were fun to do. We've gotten in some of the earliest streams we had the whole Hyperforce team on. We had Peter and Yoshi Sudarso, who were the blue Dino Charge Ranger and the blue Ninja Steel Ranger.
Yep.
And I know Brendan Masia is really into the game, who is Dino Charge Red. Yeah, we've had a few actors. Oh, definitely more and more of them know about the game because people keep bringing them cards to sign.
Oh well,
that would be
guilty.
us.
Guilty. We did
That would be us. I've got a whole shadow box going for the kids.
Yes, for the kids.
Yep, for the kids. That's what I said.
And so I don't know how many of them have actually gotten a chance to play it or even that into board gaming, but the few who are have definitely reached out and they've been very excited. I just posted the Santa Pack has a cameo by Brendan Masia because
I saw that on the cards.
Yeah. So we have the Cursed Coal features Brendan Masia's my favorite performance of Brendan when he's plays an evil elf that has been cursed by Heximus, and we had a great time having Dan Mora draw some of the wackiest stuff. But we've had we've definitely talked to a few of the actors. And we're always very excited when they find out about the game or get excited about it. I think the only one who's really been in any way involved in their character's development would probably be Yoshi Sudarso in Hyperforce Green.
Okay.
And part of that was because Hyperforce Green actually doesn't have he only appeared a couple times in the Hyperforce streams. And we didn't have things we didn't have a canon art piece for his weapons, right? Like in the show, the Rhea swords just are depicted using stock art of the Blade of Darkness from the show. And so we got to kind of create entirely new versions of that. And there's only concept art for the Hydra Zord. And we were talking about hey, Yoshi, what's your favorite play style? And we got to kind of tune the character to Yoshi's particular how he likes to play. So that was a fun thing. We definitely do it more if we have contact info for more of the actors, but we'll see.
That's awesome. And now I got to ask one last thing about Yoshi specifically. Is he as cool as he seems to be? We've met him at a convention. He seemed like a really cool guy, but I know that's a snapshot and not the whole picture.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so goddamn cool. I'm so jealous. He's so cool and he's so buff and he's just he's so charming.
That was I mean he was wonderful because we kind of just had gone because they were doing a Ranger
the Ranger Stop Atlanta.
Yeah, the Ranger Stop Atlanta, and they were doing a Ranger fitness thing. And
man.
Because we're super buff here at Critony Entertainment.
No, we are not. But our 7-year-old even had questions to ask, and they were both so charming. And
that was Brandon and Yoshi did that panel.
Yeah, Brandon and Yoshi did that, and they were so charming and listened to him and were so engaged and saw him as the fan. And I was like, okay, you guys have totally won me over. The mom in me is thank you. You're good. I love all of you now. You're perfect.
Yoshi's fantastic. Yeah, Peter and Yoshi were both great when we did the stream together. They're great.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, well, I mean, I could keep asking you questions all night long, but Andy, did you have any dire questions you needed to get out here?
This is very okay. I'm just in the moment right now. I know. I'm just in the moment right now, but I guess one question I did have. And it's kind of if it could happen, would it happen? Or really what Ranger or what fill-in would you think that you'd want to do later on, but maybe might not be able to?
I mean, the obvious answer is Ivan Ooze, right? We're not going to do Ivan Ooze. The rights are such a nightmare.
Yep.
I despite however much anyone was going to want that, Ivan Ooze is just not on the table. Which it's fine. There's plenty of other villains. We got our Tenga Warriors anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But oh man, I will say, almost every time I've been asked this question, one of my favorites is already in production, so I don't want to spoil it. And the same is true for this one. Definitely, I'm gonna be oblique about it. Okay. There's a Ranger who's coming, who's one that I've wanted to put in the game for a very long time, and is my favorite Ranger to play in Battle for the Grid.
Oh.
The fighting game.
Favorite Ranger to play in Battle for the Grid. You heard it here first, folks. Cat Ranger is coming.
So we'll see. We'll see. You know, there are a lot of characters in that game. We'll see which ones end up being the actual one to come out. But yeah.
Okay, well, I have one more. Okay. So you grew up with Power Rangers, and I grew up, of course, Mighty Morphin, CO, Alien Rangers, all that stuff, and of course In Space, which is one of my favorites. Which I love. The Rise of the Psycho Rangers expansion, that was one of my favorite ones. And there's just one little avenue that they did it in the comics and they've done it in the TV show. And I don't know if we could see it later on down the line, maybe if the planets align and, you know, things are getting better. But some crossovers they did, you know, with a certain team of, with some other teenagers with attitude, if you know what I'm saying.
Some heroes in a half shell, if you will.
Ooh,
exactly.
Well, I mean, if we go that far, we need the Justice League too, because there's a crossover there as well. So.
Oh my god, I love him and Batman.
Listen, like similarly with Ivan Ooze, rights are a challenging issue. I know, like IDW has or had the Turtle rights. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, like I can't really speak too much to other licenses because that is absolutely above my pay grade. Like. I'll tell you, like I've talked to Renegade about possible crossover stuff, and we've definitely like had a lot of conversations about things we'd love to see in the game. But what is actually in the cards? That's for the people higher than me to handle, right?
Well, yeah,
like,
I assume there's a sales division to it of what they think will actually sell and whatnot. But we'll accept in place of Ivan Ooze, we will accept Shark Cycles and Cowboy Rangers.
The Cowboy Rangers. Oh, I would love them so much. Oh my god. I would get immediately like killed with a crossbow by like a quarter of the fan base, but
I am considering making some. I have big plans, and unfortunately I have Bree, close your ears here. I have a wife who sometimes stops me from buying the core box over and over again. Because I have plans. I need another core box for a second Billy. I need another core box to make a Dragon Shield Zack because I have the extra Green Ranger. I need a core box just to make Cowboy Rangers. I need to make football putties. But of course, she's like, you already have it. This is not fair.
No football putties. No, not football putties.
Football putties are amazing, and you know it. That's my only disappointment with Rhino Blaster is we didn't get football putties to go with him. But that's all right. It is what it is.
I will say, I think Kimberly's quick shot was for a long time called Quick Draw as a reference to the Cowboy Rangers episode.
That's amazing.
But I think that got changed to match parting shot for her for the Ranger Slayer.
Yes,
the Ranger Slayer.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. Your Pink Rangers are DPS machines. What led you to that decision of making?
Zordon said too much pink energy was dangerous.
He did.
Yeah, but Zordon says a lot of things. Can we really trust him after everything we've seen in the comics lately?
Yeah.
Spoilers for those who have not read the comics yet, by the way, if you haven't picked that up from your...
I mean, the guy makes child armies, okay?
Don't hate on Zordon. Oh, poor Zordon.
So you alluded earlier that your favorite Ranger was Adam Park.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Adam Park Mighty Morphin, Adam Park Zeo, Adam Park Turbo, or all of the above?
I mean, pretty much all of the above. Like, Adam Park Mighty Morphin is probably like I love the Mighty Morphin suit. I love the Mastodon. Like, when we played Pretend as a kid, I got to be the Black Ranger. And like, I love that axe. Yeah, I mean, I think Adam Park Zeo is like definitely fun, and Adam Park Turbo is also good. Like, I love that he got to be green. I also like the Green Ranger. I love Green Rangers.
I'm
leaving the room.
All right, here we go.
Chris is biting his tongue. Just everybody, brace yourselves.
Yeah, I don't know. It was that thing where it's like the Green Ranger was not in the original crew, so the Green Ranger was like special. And so Adam Park being promoted from because there wasn't a Black Ranger in the Zeo team, but it was like, oh, he's green, which is like even cooler because that's the color of being super special is how I interpreted that as a small, tiny child.
Well, he had a crossover too because his Lion Zord was for a Green Ranger in the original Sentai, so he kind of crossed over slowly from black to green.
It was great. Yep, I love that Zord. I love Adam Park. Once a Ranger is cinematic masterpiece.
Oh, Once
I
Rage is
can't.
awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
oh man, yeah. Johnny Young Bosch is amazing. Like I love everything he's been in since. Like Vast Stampede. Like
Oh my god, yes.
See, we've
yeah,
met
Oh
I
Johnny
yeah.
love.
Young Park once, and Johnny Young Johnny Young Bosch once, and I don't think he was feeling well because he was not very pleasant with most of the fans that day. But I've heard such nice things about him that I'm like, I got to meet him again later. Maybe he was just having an off day.
I mean, yeah, Atlanta was hot that weekend
It,
too, so
it's true. It's true. Yeah,
Atlanta's always hot.
I love Adam too. If I had to pick my like favorite Mighty Morphin team, as much as I love Zach and his hip hop keto, I'd bump him for Adam any day of the week.
that's because Johnny Young
Mhm.
Bosch's martial arts style is just
You can
beautiful to
you can give Zach
watch.
the dragon coin. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's
But
getting
And I mean, I love Zach. Like I was, huge fan of Zach as a kid because he's like the cool one. Like I think for me, there was an element of it where playing as a kid, it was really interesting because Johnny Young Bosch as Adam Park was kind of the first Asian character I saw in media who was not like the generic kung fu guy or the like wimpy nerd. Like that was that sort of stereotyping was really prevalent in the early '90s. And so for me as a kid, like it was kind of cool and like they couldn't make him the nerd because Billy was already on the team and they all do
Yep.
martial arts. So like Adam got to be cool. Like he was, like good looking and a cool dude. And it was definitely an inspiring moment for me as a kid.
Well, that's not dissimilar to Billy for Bree and I because
Yeah.
Obviously we paint Power Rangers figures. We're not the cool kids.
Mhm.
nope,
So
never.
Billy was definitely an inspiring presence because you did have that nerd. Of course, they stopped pretending with David Yost pretty quickly, where they're like, "Yeah, Billy, you're the nerd. Look at those guns."
Guy's carved from marble.
So they gave up on that pretty quick.
Yeah, that
So-
was our squee moment. Actually, was for me when we got to meet David Yost, and I was like, "No, you don't understand. You were a nerd. I was a nerd. I was the kid who literally was known for being able to walk and read at the same time. So seeing a nerd on television, and he was hanging out with the cool kids. The cool kids wanted to be his friends. Like that was huge. So, and I know for a lot of my friends, because I grew up in Jacksonville, which is an amazing melting pot of, every culture the Navy's ever touched. Um, Adam was like the stuff because he was the first kind of like, he's the cool Asian guy. Everybody wants to be him. He's the cool Asian guy. And I'm like, I get that. I get that.
and like we said, all his appearances after Mighty Morphin, he was awesome in as well. So.
Oh, and his voice work is
Yeah.
primo. His voice work is primo.
So-
being the anime nerd in the room.
So if Adam's your favorite Ranger, who's your favorite monster and why is it Pumpkin Rapper?
Yo, like I made a whole scenario where I got to write pumpkin rapping. Like, do not joke.
No, I'm not.
I
I love
love-
Pumpkin Rapper.
I love pumpkin rapper.
It's
So
like my
goddamn.
favorite. Like I love King Sphinx too. I'm torn that now you've made both of them because King
Mhm.
Sphinx, I don't know why, has always been one of my favorite monsters, but Pumpkin Rapper.
Yeah. Oh god, I love pumpkin rapper. I'm quite into Bryan Cranston's Twin Man.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. God, there's so many good monsters. I mean, let's see. A lot of the like kind of classic monsters are like, man. Yeah, no, it's got to be Pumpkin Rapper. I think like Pudgy Pig was also one that like when we were first making the game, I was like, we cannot not do Pudgy Pig. Like,
Oh, he's
yeah,
iconic.
I will leave the room if we don't put Pudgy Pig in the core box.
And-
maybe he ended up a little overtuned, but
I was going to say, and he single-handedly gave all of us PTSD playing him.
You know what's funny is I love him. Since we got the revised cards, I'm like, no, I like the original cards more because there's so much more
are you
challenges.
too.
playing meaner? Yeah, no, it was just one of those things. Like I think Pudgy Pig, especially for Heroes of the Grid, like I really love that they gave us the chance to like kind of make his design a little more pushed and a little more monstrous, and like he's got he doesn't look like a dude in a weird suit, like he's proportionally almost like he's almost like MODOK or something, right? Like this big-headed monster. Nick Norman, who's our sculptor, is just knocked it out of the park with that one. And it was very cool that Saban gave us that kind of freedom to really push the design elements of some of the more monstrous monsters, so they aren't all vaguely human-shaped. with some odd bells and whistles. Yeah.
I mean, even
So
the
yeah,
ones that
Pudgy
are
Pig, Pumpkin Wrapper.
Yeah.
big, I like it. I'm validated now. I even some of the more human-esque shaped ones like Rito. That Rito sculpt is out of this world.
Oh, the Rito is
Mm.
so
The
good.
Goldar sculpt too.
Yeah.
Goldar. Yeah.
But so if you got we got Pumpkin Wrapper as the favorite monster, Adam Park's the favorite ranger. Who's our favorite boss though?
That is
Mm.
good because you have created some bosses that
I
are
mean, it's Zed, but why is it Zed?
truly just they get pulled and we go, oh
Just
no,
they're just mean.
why?
I mean, I'm gonna say like I had a very good time designing Divatox to just be a huge jerk.
She's such a
It was,
delightful lady too. That's the best part.
yeah, like the character, like it was tricky because Turbo rated. I'm gonna say a bit low on the initial on that initial poll. So I knew we weren't going to see the Turbo team anytime super soon. But when we got a chance to kind of slip some extra villains to represent different seasons in that villain pack, I leapt at the chance to do Divatox. But yeah, I mean, Lord Drakon was definitely one of the more fun ones to design, just because I got to kind of base him on like build him out of this very scary form that he has in the comics, and like the Stolen Power card really amps up the way he plays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I've had a lot of fun with a lot of the bosses. I think they're some of my favorite things to design. Though it is tricky to like kind of hit that right challenge rating. But yeah.
Well, that bleeds in perfectly. How do you hit that challenge rating? Kind of what's your process for saying, okay, this is too much, this is too little, and Ravenous Hunger is terrible?
We have a lot. We have a lot more playtesters now than we did originally, which is really helpful. Like our playtesting group has slowly been growing, and like some of them, like get other responsibilities and phase out. But we've got, we put the game through a lot of paces. Just like running them through. I think a core rule we have when testing is to always test against the base game with whatever content we're doing. So if it's a monster or a boss, we're testing it against the core Mighty Morphin team. If it's a new ranger, we're testing them against core set monsters and bosses, just to kind of make sure we keep that power level fairly consistent. Like in a lot of games that are like this, the core box heroes will often have been power crept to oblivion, but you will like never not want to bring Mighty Morphin Black with Power Axe, right? Like Jason Lee Scott, leadership is always useful. Like
Yes.
we kind of want to make sure that piece of the design is always true. And yeah, like you can still get some pretty busted combos with some of these rangers, especially now that there's just so many with so many different unique mechanics playing around. And that's part of the
Gold
fun.
Ranger.
Oh man, Gold Ranger, like
Cool.
yeah. So like we will often, if like we're playing with a particular mechanic, we'll definitely take a look at other rangers that play with that, or other rangers that might be like a hard counter to this or that monster. And we're okay with certain monsters having like some pretty dramatic counters. Like I believe Space Pink has a card that beats the pants off of one of the very beefy cards that King Mondo has.
Oh yeah, the Sword of Damocles there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oof.
and being able to just use the what is it? What's Space Pink's satellite stunner?
Yeah, satellite.
Like satellite stunner.
Yes.
Yep.
And it was one of those things where like some testers like, oh, should we put like a specific rule to make it so satellite stunner doesn't do that to it? And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, if you came with satellite stunner ready for that fight, like that is an advantage to you. There are other monsters and bosses who satellite stunner is not that effective against. Like that is part of the game, and I want to kind of make the game continue to have these interesting little interactions, because that's finding them is part of the fun.
Well, it's funny that you say Satellite Center specifically, because that's one of the ones I remember when we got those boxes and we played, and Mondo was our boss. We usually play random, so we pull random rangers and random monsters, random bosses, and we just shuffle our big decks together, and pull monsters that way. And we had the Satellite Stunner versus Sword of Damocles, and we stopped when we did it, and we said, "Did we play this right? This feels like we didn't play it right."
Yeah. When it went off so easily, we were like, no, Mondo's supposed to be harder than this. Like he's King Mondo. This should have been a lot harder.
Well, of course, other things that we've broken like crazy are Dragon Dagger and Blade Blasters.
Always
Okay.
fun. Yeah, like those
Yep.
kind of multiplying effects like are in the game specifically to, pop off, because like it is a challenging game a lot of the time. Like it
Oh
is
yes.
not, and that was something we had a lot of arguing about very early on in the design, is like, how hard is it, right? Like, and we decided like we wanted to make the game one that like you know you shouldn't be able to win it every single time super reliably, right? You need to have to put thought into it. That is how you give it legs. You give it challenge. You want players to kind of come back to it and like be looking for something to, break.
Well, you found a
Yeah.
nice balance between like pandemic level of us punching the box and like just one of the games where we're like, okay, we know we're going to always win this world one. It's kind of actually it's a little bit like Chaos in the Old World where
Sometimes you just lose,
sometimes you just lose and
but
you go,
not like
I had a
Pandemic.
no,
If
never
you ever
like
played Pandemic, it's a glorious game, but we played it like 100 times. We won it like 3 times.
Oh man.
Well, we always play at the hardest maximum setting they have in the box, and it just destroys
Yeah,
us every time.
that's hardest setting Pandemic is real tricky, and that's one of the things that like I think Pandemic is a beautiful game at that kind of medium difficulty, and it will sometimes be a little too easy at that medium difficulty, right? Like you got to kind of tune it. But I think a lot of the times when games have difficulty levels, like you can really tell how much the devs put care into the balancing, if the hardest difficulty is actually doable and not just like a brutal slog that's no fun. Like my favorite games are the ones which have a hard mode that like feels fair and challenging and intense.
Yeah, and see, for us, we've won Pandemic on hard mode, and when we do it, it's one of those moments where you're like, "Yes, I have done this." And I gotta admit, the first time we beat Cyclopsis, we felt that way.
We beat him with a 23 damage blade blaster actually the first time.
Yes,
Oh,
and we were
that'd
like,
do it.
and we were like, "Ha! Look at that! We won! Did we win? Should we have
did we do that
won?"
wrong? Did we cheat? I feel like we might have cheated. No, actually, what's great is that it's the type of game that, like you said, you don't know you're going to win every time you play it. Sometimes you're not going to win, but you never feel bad for losing.
And we will say thank you for that lesson, because when it comes to teaching a 7-year-old about playing board games and sportsmanship and stuff like that, having a game that he loves that he can still lose to and still have a great time doing it has helped his ability to lose
Oh,
profusely.
that is a good lesson to learn early for sure. Like oh man, I've never thrown a board game tantrum as a child. Certainly, like
No, not at all. None of us have. I'm
I know
sure.
that feel.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm sure
what's
Monopoly's never gone flying across
no,
anybody's
it's fine.
house.
What's great is that it is a game we can pull out with a 7-year-old, and he understands it. His strategy is not necessarily the best. Sometimes we have to stop him and say, "Well, are you sure you want to play that card right now?" But he understands the game and he loves playing it. So that's huge.
Oh man, I'm glad, because we definitely kind of aimed it like that says a lot about your 7-year-old. I'm going to be honest, because we definitely, I mean, we put 14 plus on the box primarily so that we could have components and not have to worry about like testing them to see if a child will swallow them and die, which is a concern in
Oh yeah.
children's games. But yeah, like I definitely wanted this game to be approachable to people who weren't dyed in the wool board gamers. Even though we were targeting a hobby game market, we knew that a lot of people who like this could be their first hobby game, because they're like Power Rangers fans who are like, oh, we've never played a game like this, or like they've played Monopoly before, but like so yeah, being I'm really glad the game was able to thread the needle with so many people, and I just continuously feel blessed by this awesome community.
No, and it's, I mean, I think we probably feel the same way about you and Renegade Studios. The responsiveness of Renegade is outstanding. We have involvement in so many games, and this is one of the few groups that you can actually get an answer from on something, and so many of them just ignore you. And that's huge from a from a consumer slash player standpoint, especially when games aren't cheap these days. So
No,
Mm.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Like we always like to tell each other, tell people we have a very nice luxury vehicle worth of car or worth of games in our front room.
it's true. We have a lot of games in here.
We may be knocking on a Maybach if we're really doing this right.
Well, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to
No.
go ahead and point out that we have been actively going for about 40 minutes now. And Jonathan, I just want to know how you were on time. I didn't want to overdo you here.
I'm doing okay. I should probably go get dinner in like a little while, but like I'm not in any particular rush.
Okay, so I mean, I'm sure we got plenty more we can pick your brain with. So we don't want you to feel like, hey, these guys are wasting my time at this point. So now all that we talk about playtesting a little bit. When you guys do the playtesting, and you said you kind of try to match things up to the core set, which I think is fantastic because I mentioned earlier I'm a 20-year war gamer, and oh my god, so many things become useless as new editions and new boxes come out. Do you have playtesting sessions that involve the alternate modes of play or just the core way? So I mean, one of the things we do a lot, because it's myself, Bree, and our son, we do a lot of 6 ranger, everybody plays 2 ranger mode. Is that getting tested as well, or is that just kind of a, hey, we put that in as kind of an afterthought now?
We definitely do try and test that, though it doesn't get the same priority as like Singleton Ranger, which is the sort of the main way to play. But yeah, we definitely put work into making sure that like these mechanics work for the doubles formats. Those are a little trickier to balance for, certainly, and like not every ranger is well suited to that. But yeah, like we definitely keep them in mind. I know a couple of our testers are very dedicated to those modes, and so they're the ones I kind of like defer to their judgment on certain balance decisions when it comes to that. But yeah, so that's basically kind of where they fall. They're not as centralized, but they're always kind of on our mind, and we always kind of want to keep an eye out to make sure, like, does this ability break that mode, or what have you. Like you might notice, Titanium Ranger has a card that refers to the number of cards in your deck or discard pile. And in the Duo Ranger modes, like your deck is twice as deep and your discard pile can be twice as deep. Mm-hmm. So those cards have a listed hard cap, so that it's not like, okay, you're busting out 20 damage or like whatever all the time. You're still like, they're still much more impactful in those modes because your deck is sitting at 10 or more fairly often, but they're not comparatively insanely busted as they could have been. And so that's kind of our nods to those particular modes.
Well, see, our Titanium Ranger hasn't actually come in yet, so it's good to know that there's a card like that coming.
Yeah.
So that's
We're
good,
waiting.
But it sounds like Titanium Ranger would pair up well with Mighty Morphin Black or Magna Defender even.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so Titanium Ranger, I could talk a little bit about his design. He was an interesting one just because we really wanted to emphasize his toughness. And so, interestingly, his main ability is less optimized for duo deck sets, but because his cards themselves work really well with a deeper deck or deeper discard pile, it kind of balances out a bit. But yeah, he really likes to kind of run close to that edge of danger. We've seen him tank some really disgusting hits. He's definitely one of my favorite designs.
Well, if you ever need a 7-year-old playtester, let us know.
Yeah, he would.
I'm sure Julian would love to do that.
I'll keep you in mind.
He would hurt himself with that one.
What ranger does he want to see in the game? Tell me that.
He'd like to see a ranger designer. I think he has made, based off of your game, he has made up his own ranger.
Oh, there you go.
He is obsessed with what he calls the chromatic ranger.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a rainbow ranger almost.
Well, actually, he's based off, Julian, I've had this talk. He's based off of Tommy's legendary ranger.
Off the Master Morpher.
So the chromatic ranger can pull things from anywhere because 7-year-old, so OP is the only way to go.
But realistically, you've already made some of his favorite rangers.
Yes.
So I don't know if he has a specific one that you would go jumping and screaming for.
That's a good
one. I do have one though.
What do you got?
Well, it's just because, like I said, Gold Ranger is amazing, and it's funny that he mentioned the dual Ranger mode, which, by the way, leadership with the Jason's Gold Ranger card is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So I would love to see King Tyranno. I don't know if you've heard of King Tyranno
or Master.
I have heard. Yeah, I've seen it shared in some threads. Like that is, I believe, a fan character that is not I don't know who owns it. Like that is not Hasbro does not own that design. It is not like I don't know how. Yeah, we'd have to find like the original artist and like clear it with Hasbro and all those. There's a lot of hoops to jump through for that. As cool as that character design is.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that takes
Yeah.
out the Unworthy Productions Power Rangers too.
Oh man.
I don't know if you've seen those.
Oh yeah, God. Oh man, there's so many. There's a lot of cool fan ranger designs and fan concepts for rangers that I would love to see, and there's a bunch of Sentai suits that I'd love to see in the game. That now
Train
that Hasbro
Rangers.
sort of distanced themselves from Sentai, like,
Where
alas.
are our Train Rangers?
Yeah, Train Rangers would be pretty cool. What about what about Blue Centaurian and the Turbo team? I see a lot of people talk about that. I think they have must have hit their head a little hard, but I see a lot of people talk about Turbo.
Yeah, there's some folks talking about Turbo. I think Blue Centurion is definitely really primo ally pack material, though he keeps getting bumped further and further, unfortunately. I'm like, of characters who I'm pretty confident we'll see one day. Blue Centurion's pretty high on that list.
Okay.
And when it comes to Turbo, like, I would love to do a sculpt of Justin as like a kid-sized ranger, like just like to do the model, like, and not have him weirdly transformed into an adult human, Shazam style, like, because like we also see him in the suit as like a kid-sized character. Like, why not? I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it'd be fun
puts
to
the
have
helmet
him
on and he gets big or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that said, if you ever do a scenario for a turbo themed scenario, have you considered just making it about Divatox putting bombs everywhere? Because that's what every episode is.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, like that, it would definitely be the Turbo themed scenario, but you'd want the Turbo team first, right? Like we did the Z Stronger Than Before for the Zeo team.
I can think of a few teams I'd rather have than Turbo.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, God, we're definitely, we've made way more than I was expecting us to get through already. So like, I'm super excited if we can keep at it. But yeah.
Well, that begs the question of: is there an end game? Is there going to be a point where they say, "Okay, we're done with this," or is that going to be dictated by continued sales?
A lot of it is dictated by sales. Like, we're already well past the expected lifespan of a game of this model, and we're already. I'm astonished that the game is still selling. Like, I feel like we've hit the event horizon of a normal human shelf space a while ago. Like my Kallax has collapsed into a neutron star at this point. But like, as long as people are excited about the game, like, and I'm excited to keep making these designs. I love these Rangers. I love the brand. It's great. It's definitely, yeah. It pretty much, it's as long as people keep, the Kickstarters keep doing well and like people keep buying them, we're in it for the long haul.
I feel like doing well is an understatement. Did the last one fun in 10 minutes?
Yeah, about to say. So it's never going to end.
We'll definitely see. Like, I think we definitely have seen certain, dips in sales at certain points. And the pandemic was probably not great for just the overall economics of the world, as well as global shipping is a nightmare right now. So,
my goodness. So there's a pandemic, you said.
Yeah.
It's the end of the world.
So well, that said, I know there's.
You're playing on the hardest difficulty, you say?
Yes. World on the hardest difficulty. So obviously we have the board game space, and I know Renegade is currently doing the deck building space. And one of the things we've been doing on the channel is actually starting to translate Heroes of the Grid figures into model agnostic war games using the one-page rules set. Has there ever been a consideration of doing a Power Rangers based war game for some of the more tabletop wargaming crowd?
Let's see. I'll say we've thought about it. I can't really speak more on that. But yeah, it's definitely something that we have considered. I'm honestly not sure of the demographic overlap of Wargamers and Power Rangers. Like, I know there's at least two.
You found them right here.
We'll see. It's like one of those things of like, squad-based tactics is one thing, but like part of the reason why Heroes of the Grid isn't a tactics game is that like it's not about the Rangers aren't really about like perfect spacing and like kind of counting line of sight. Like they're not they don't kick down the door and go on adventures, which is why it's not like an Imperial Assault style game. Like conveying that sort of sense of martial arts action, or like the big epic Zord fights, like those things are kind of need their own style of game. And yeah, it would definitely be a very distinct design from what we've got in Heroes of the Grid.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's one of the reasons I've kind of been interested to see how their RPG is going to hit the market and do that, because I
Oh, that's
know.
right. There's an RPG too.
Yeah, the RPGs out there now. And that's definitely going to be one of those things of like, okay, how do you do that balance between big Zord fights, big kaiju craziness, and the typical, hey, let's all go hang out at the juice bar and they'll fight like some putties. How we doing?
So when do we get Ernie as a support character?
There we go. That is legit.
Oh, one day. That is one I would love to do. Like,
so that would be amazing. So having more support characters would be amazing.
He'd be like Alpha.
Well, I mean, I'm not the game designer. I was gonna say like support cards. Ernie's a support card. Emily, the orange waitress.
No.
She always wore orange because all the other colors were worn. They couldn't wear any more. I mean, that would be amazing to see more dedicated support stuff, because I mean we obviously have Alpha 5, and just considering that there's 2 versions of Alpha 5 now, I imagine a lot of effort went into make Alpha 5 usable but not overpowered. I'm interested in Alpha 5, the support AI versus the actual player, because I've never played Alpha 5 as a player. He just seems like he wouldn't be fun, but as a support, I love having him there.
I'm actually very partial to playing Alpha as a player, partly because it lets me let other players take the reins. Like, I don't have to. Oftentimes, players will like try and defer to me about decision making and all that. Like, and I kind of want to see how they play. So if I play Alpha 5, I could just kind of support them, be like, oh, hey, if you do this, I can make that even better. Or like, here, I'm going to play this card, and then you get to decide how you want to use those resources I've generated. Like, it's good for a host to kind of bring out Alpha 5. So yeah, I'm partial to that.
That's an amazing answer that I did not consider, because that's kind of who I am in our game group. I'm kind of like the host / mentor, and I try so hard when we get when we're able to get an adult group together to play, to be like, okay, guys, what do you want to do? And everybody's just like, well, what do you think we should do?
So you'd be Alpha.
I never even thought about
Same
that.
here.
That's. I mean, I would enjoy doing that more if I had Ernie. I'm just saying.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll play as Ernie, or what's his name? The officer, the police officer.
Oh, Captain. Oh, what was his name?
Lieutenant Dan.
No, he's not Lieutenant Dan. But yeah, that means then you also have to get Bulk and Skull as chimps, and that just gets weird.
I'd be okay with that. I mean, they basically play like. Actually, I love the way Bulk and Skull play. Let me throw it back to Andy here real quick, since I've kind of pushed him out of the conversation here.
Well, no, yeah. Well, I did have also another question. So as far as you mentioned balancing and how you were play testing certain things, and you didn't want things to be over the top. How did it go into making like the mastermind mode? How did that go? What was the process with that?
That was definitely one of the toughest challenges in designing the game, because like the idea of controlling the villains was one that was presented really early on. Like, I designed Star Wars. I was one of the designers on Star Wars Imperial Assault, which is a big one versus many game. So I've got a lot of experience in that front. But we kind of decided in the initial run where it was like, I don't know if people would be super excited to play like putty patrollers. Like in Star Wars, like stormtroopers are like, they're silly, but they're like kind of cool. Putty patrollers are just silly. And some of the monsters are cool, but a lot of them are dumb or silly. And like, not everyone would be super hyped to play Rita Repulsa in the same way they'd be hyped to play Darth Vader. So we kind of prioritized this co-op experience, and I like the idea of all the Rangers being on the same side and all that. But I knew that there was a contingent of the fan base that really wanted to do kind of a one versus many gameplay style.
Yeah, you were in my head.
And so like the idea of like, okay, how do we make this engaging, and like how do we allow like the game was designed to be quite difficult, even run by an random card draw. Like, so the second you put a human being to pilot these bad guys, like the game gets way harder. Like instantly, like doubles or triples the challenge of the game. So we needed to make sure that like whatever decisions we let the mastermind make, they had to be very precise, and we had to kind of weaken them in several ways, like reducing a lot of the deployments, like you can't win by panic anymore. It's like we had to kind of try and work on that balance, and so it was definitely a lot of playtesting in mastermind mode to make that kind of hit that sweet spot, and I think we did pretty well.
Now I do have another question. So I usually play mastermind mode, but I also do. I'll mix it in with I think it's called the demolition mode, where like certain places will get just slowly worn out, and then they can't use them anymore. And it just makes all the people that play with me like, why are you doing this to us? Like, because I want to win.
Oh, now we see Andy's dark side. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. I should really put up a poll or something to see how popular mastermind mode is as a mode, because it could end up being a one-off, or it could be something we put additional support for in later expansions. But kind of community response will really decide that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a mixed bag in our house. I love the idea of it, but Bree won't let me play it.
Nope. Nuh-uh.
Because she says I'm too mean when it's me versus other
It's
people.
mean. It's not nice.
It
is not
so
kind.
Fun.
She won't let me play the
fun.
mastermind.
No, unless we have the adults and everything like that, but I know that what would happen is Julian would get so mad at you because Daddy was being mean.
Keep the peace. Like in some ways, I think the best supervillain, like the best 1v many players, are the ones who can really thread that needle of like making the game as exciting as possible while dominating their opponents. Like make them think they have a chance, right? Like.
No, yeah, I like to be very thematic, and it's a lot of my games that I do. I'll do like a lot of theme stuff. Like I love the scenarios you do; they're great. They're a lot of fun. I think one I actually kind of made up on the spot because we were doing all Yellow Rangers, but it was too many people. There weren't enough Yellow Rangers to go around, so I was playing as Gold Ranger, just black and yellow sort of thing. And the scenario I played was kind of like. Last boss comes in, Gold Ranger can't fight because he's losing his powers, or the Gold Ranger power is attacking him. So you guys have to fend for yourselves at this point.
What a sacrifice you made not playing Gold Ranger for. Okay, don't worry, guys. I'll be Gold Ranger. You don't have to be. What a sacrifice.
Yeah.
What a trooper. No, Gold
I think
Ranger's
my goal
fantastic.
in design is generally like I want every time I design a Ranger, my goal is like I want this to be someone's favorite Ranger to play. That is like one of my design principles that I'm always fishing for, is like, okay, what playstyle do I want to really cater to with this particular Ranger?
Well, have you ever considered, or is it possibly down the line of team bonuses? Have you ever thought of saying if everybody playing is all Pink Rangers or all Mighty Morphin Rangers or something like some thematic thing like that, there's a bonus or a drawback?
Players seem to do that on their own, and I kind of don't like being prescriptive about specific teams because I feel like that limits the design space rather than expanding it. Like it's scenarios already kind of do that sometimes when it's like, hey, look, we don't want you playing other Rangers because it can sometimes break the scenario, and if you choose to play the other Rangers, that's on you, right? Like one of them, it's like, hey, the Zeo Rangers have abilities that tie very tightly to their combat decks, which means any scenario that swaps your character ability is just not good for them. And so we kind of steer people away from that in those designs. But yeah, like I think in general, like having those kinds of themed games seem more the purview of like, I've seen fans do like, hey, let's do Forever, the Forever Red games. How does that feel? Because like, and that just lets them, kind of set their own margins for victory.
We do that regularly. We're Forever Blue, Forever Black, Forever Yellow. We do them all.
Yeah.
Now we have enough Rangers.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
We need more Rangers. We need more Rangers. Well, I'll have more Rangers. My favorite team is showing up in the mail here eventually. That's the Omegas.
Yeah, the Omega team will be
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So
I'm waiting.
Well, I just stumbled myself into another question. Why did you decide against doing an Omega Blue? Is it because there's a new Omega Blue, or is it because you just want to keep Kaya as a villain?
I liked Kaya as a villain. Part of it was just like keeping Kaya as a villain. I think we had a very limited number of sculpt slots in the box, and like having two versions of the same character, like I don't know. I was kind of on the fence about it. I think at the end of the day, I'm much happier that we got Dane into the box than if we had another like Omega Ranger. Like the box is already chock-a-block with Rangers, right? Like more villains is generally better for the game's lifespan, in my opinion. Not to say we'll never do Kaya as Omega Blue, or the new comics Omega Blue. Minor spoilers.
How about the cat?
He's so
Yeah,
cute.
I was trying to talk around it.
I was gonna say we just went from minor spoilers to moderate spoilers, and I'm too lazy to edit, Andy. I'm not gonna put a spoiler tag on there.
There we go.
Unbelievable. This guy. I don't know why we invite him.
I'm sorry. I love the design. It's so cool looking.
Yes, it is a nice design, but I'm not gonna say any more as far as that goes on that front with that particular Ranger. So Bree, you haven't really asked a question yet.
Oh, no. Okay, my brain's not there right now. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I have a slight cold, so my brain has been mush, and I'm just kind of been sitting here going, "Yay, yay, Power Rangers!" Yeah, I think that's my main thing. Has always been a thank you for making Trini kind of a badass. She is my favorite Ranger to play beyond Time Force Pink. Because I've never been a Kimberly fan. Just, not my chick. The cheerleader Pink Ranger was not my thing.
Trini is definitely one of the ones who I am close to that play style as well. I love playing Trini.
And well, for me it's always fun because she walks the perfect line for me as the mom in the group. Both in our adult group and in our family group, because she's just enough of a support player that she can be there to be like, yeah, buddy, I'll help you out. Okay, here, yep, Trini's gonna come over and help you in your fight. And also she can lay down some damage if she's really like, okay, it's time. Let's see how many different ways I can use this card. Here we go. Twin Fang, Twin Fang, Twin Fang.
Oh my god.
So yes. But I would have to say, is there any of the Rangers that you would maybe want to go back and tweak if it was one of those, I've seen how it played out there, I've seen fan reactions now. Is there any of them that you're just weren't quite as happy with how they came out in the long run, or?
I mean, there's definitely a couple of Rangers who maybe came in a little over or undertuned. There's some wording tweaks that I would make now that we've learned some things. There's a Ranger coming up, I will say, that has an ability similar to Loner Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
That we've figured out a different wording for his ability that allows him to sort of keep the theme of being a loner without completely turning off that ability in all group fights. So that kind of wording, you develop new technology basically in the rules as we progress, and that's one that I think if I were to be able to go back, I would definitely revise Tommy to use this style of wording, and I would encourage fans to just kind of play him that way in the future. But rules as written, kind of the thing about board games that it is very difficult to patch them. We've done
FAQs can be their own special nightmare.
Yeah, we've done the little update pack thing, for Rita and Pudgy Pig, partly because I think, as an introduction to the game, we wanted players to have a smoother ride in. We have Scenario Zero built around that as well. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of try not to look back too much about, what I regret. Yeah, there are certain cards that came in a little underpowered. I think Defender's Magna Blaster is not up to par. Which is okay. You just kind of toss it into your discard pile and power up Magna Blade, and that's fine. And it's okay for some Rangers to have slightly weaker elements of their kit because it just gives them a little more flavor. I think Rangers having weaknesses is just as important as them having strengths, because if every Ranger is good at everything, you don't need to work together.
Absolutely. No, I fully get that, because when we've done the Forever Blue, it is a difficult play style.
That's an uphill game.
Because, there aren't
Forever Yellow would be a lot harder without Jack.
Yes.
Yeah.
But,
without, and thank goodness they made a tanky Yellow Ranger, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, who did that? I'm glad you said Tommy Loner, because that's actually something I've been avoiding saying, because I'm trying not to let my feelings about Tommy bleed into this conversation. But Loner, I like that ability, and I despise Gift of the Dragon. I don't necessarily hate the mechanic, but I feel like when you take Loner away from Tommy, the rest of his deck just becomes a lot less fun for that ranger to play because there's so many abilities that are down to 1 or 2 dice without Loner.
Mhm.
And when we do play him with Loner, he's actually pretty fun to play, but it always becomes a game of, okay, you go over here and fight these guys by yourself. We'll see you after the monsters beat.
Yeah, Gift of the Dragon is definitely like a if Tommy is the 6th player in a like full 6 ranger game, can feel a little more like being able to pass cards around for support. Like it gives him a lot of survivability. Like the big thing about Gift of the Dragon Tommy is that he plays much more like a tank. He's eating a lot more hits because those cards he's giving out like let him functionally play cards without actually discarding them because they go back to his deck.
Right.
And so he's like playing. You really have to play him super differently. And if you don't really love playing a super support role, and also you don't have that thing in the back of your mind saying, this should really be doing more damage, then he plays a little differently. But yeah, there's definitely of cards that completely change up the way a character plays. Like players who like Loner will not like Gift of the Dragon. Players who like Gift of the Dragon, like they can enjoy Loner because everyone likes doing damage, but like Gift of the Dragon is a very distinctive flavor.
Yeah. Gift of the Dragon can be difficult to wrap your head around if you're not coming into it. I think the times that we have used somebody using Gift of the Dragon, they have not come into it going, okay, cool, I am now support Tommy. This is
and it, from a design point of view, like it was definitely hard to make it even work at all because, like, as you say, his core ability is very tied to his deck. So, like, making that ability, something evocative, it is probably more evocative than it is powerful, right? Like, it is about that scene where he gives Zach the dragon shield. Like,
right.
It is, and like there are certain situations where like Gift of the Dragon can like do some pretty crazy stuff, like giving the right ranger the right boost to like play his own cards better than he can. It's very useful with like Carlos when he can do like constant rerolls, combining it with like some of Jason's moves to get like big dice boosts. Like there are ways of playing it, but again, it's a much more niche play style and like probably a bit weaker. But when it comes to the final boss, like Gift of the Dragon does something and Loner doesn't.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, it keeps Tommy away from the final boss. Let the real Rangers fight him.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
We got all our Tommies out of the way at the start just for this reason. Like now you don't have to.
This is what I'm saying.
Quarantined.
Well, well, none of the questions have come out this way, but I've actually been trying very hard not to specifically ask questions of saying, why does this ability do this? When am I getting to this team? And blah, 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 blah. Because I'm sure you hear those a million times. So I know you're also very active on the Renegade Facebook group because I see you post on there fairly regularly. So I'm sure you see conversations that come up about pretty aggressive rules conversations where people pop up and they say, I did this, and somebody says, well, they changed that rule, and the response back is almost always, show me the FAQ where they changed it. What is your take as a designer on the rules as written versus rules as intended sort of conversation? Because I know as a host, I'm always the rules as intended for group fun. If we have something we don't quite know how it's supposed to work in any game, not just this one, we say, okay, what's the most fun for right now, and we'll worry about it later. But I know there's a lot of people who want an answer right now. We're in the middle of a game. So what is your take on rules as intended versus rules versus written as a designer?
I mean, I'm absolutely whatever makes the game work best for your group. Like I have my intention as a designer that I will be happy to share. But like, if that doesn't work for you, or if you want to play it a little easier, you think your way is cooler or more fun, like that is totally okay. This is not a tournament game. Like if this were Magic Gathering and we had like a $10,000 prize pool for Heroes of the Grid, like then maybe we should then maybe it would be more important to get these like hardcore rule stuff laid out. And we have a lot of Magic Gathering fans in both the testing pool and the Facebook group. So like we get a lot of people asking for these very granular rules timing issues. But like the game was not originally designed to be, this particular, and every single expansion introduces new things that change the way the game plays or break this or that rule. Like, that is the accretion of this game has gotten really enormous. So we're always going to have something weird going on, and we try and keep the rules as tight as we can. Like, we do our best. Our rules editor is a real champ. But yeah, like, I think people should try and play whatever works best for their group, and I try and design things to be as clear or as smooth as possible, so that doesn't create too many weird interruptions. Certainly, we've gotten a little better at getting consistent with our language, but like, we still trip up every once in a while anyway.
Well, it's interesting that you kind of say specifically that's not a tournament game, because I've noticed that in games like this, as more content comes out and new rules pop up that didn't exist before, which creates new interactions, for me it always makes games like this more fun. But when you take a tournament game and say we're going to start adding new rules with every new supplement, it bogs it down, and I don't know why that is. When it's I don't really play a lot of game tournaments anymore. I used to long ago, but I don't really do it anymore. But it's still, when I know a game is meant to be competitive, it irritates me when a whole bunch of new rules keep getting added. But a game like this, I'm like, yeah, give me more content. Let's do it.
Yeah, like, it's a very different flavor of game, right? You have the evolving metas of like a fighting game or a card game, etc. Whereas this is much more like, Spirit Island or like any of those things, where really what we want is for the game to tell an interesting story, right? To do something exciting on your table. And sometimes that'll require things to get a little weird. And for things to get a little fuzzy, or for certain enemies to just be frickin' busted. Like, Master Vile was not designed to be, super balanced, we'll say. Like, Master Vile was specifically, he hits way harder than he has any right to, because he's Master Vile, it's Cyclopsis. Like, defeating them should not come easy.
It's the sunglasses. That's where he gets his power from.
Yeah, absolutely. Love those little things.
If we're telling a story, have you considered, or has it been a conversation for a campaign mode?
Oh, dear! I knew he was going to ask.
Bree's not a fan of campaign mode.
I knew he was going to ask.
I like running campaigns.
Just play the scenario book. That is as close to a campaign as we're probably going to get. And there is an overarching story to a lot of the first, the year one scenarios, leading to Assault on Lord Drakon, which is like, freaking nuts. It's one of my favorite game modes. Yeah. Like, I would highly recommend playing through the scenarios if you want that style of narrative game.
Well, that's the other fight Bree gives me. She doesn't want to play the scenarios. I don't want to be restricted.
I don't want to be restricted. I want to be able to play my Pink Ranger and just leave me alone.
You can look through. There are a few different ones. Like, some of them are like very narrative heavy, but other ones just kind of are different challenges to try, which like don't restrict the type of ranger you play. Like, Assault on Lord Drakon is almost like a boss rush version of the game, where like you're just and that one, like, you just bring whatever your best team of rangers is, and hope you survive. Like, there's a few scenarios that are play more to that play style, or like ones that just like, hey, here's one where everyone's decks keep shifting around, we played
that one. We played that one. We haven't played Assault on Lord Drakon. We played Stronger Than Before.
Yep. That's actually how we surprised Julian with the Zeo Rangers.
Yep, we didn't tell him we had the Zeo Rangers. We put all the cards face down, and we put Mighty Morphins on top of them, and then we flipped, and we said, what is this? There you go. We played Mighty Morphin Mix-Up, but we did it more extreme. When it was time to flip the decks, we cycled the decks out and drew random new decks.
Yeah. It was entertaining.
Oh, boy.
It was something.
I mean, if you like that one, there's the one that basically turns the game into a deck building game, where you basically, rather than recovering cards as normal, you actually pull them from a shared pool of cards and slowly kind of build this weird Gestalt amalgam hybrid deck over time.
The downside of that would be we'd shuffle all our decks together and take 3 hours sorting them back out.
That's the secret challenge part of the takedown. I think I've only got a little bit longer in me right now.
I was actually just going to say we're at about the 1 hour 15-minute mark, and I don't want to overstay our welcome with you here. So I'd like to do a quick lightning round, if you don't mind.
Yeah, hit me.
And then we'll do a sign off, and then if you're willing to stay on for just about 2 more minutes after the sign off, do that thing we talked about before we start recording, I'd appreciate that. But as far as the quick lightning round, just a series of rapid questions, just off the cuff answers.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
All right. Favorite Ranger in the series?
Adam Park.
Boxers
No
or
question.
briefs?
Boxer brief. Por qué lo nos dos?
Love it. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Fall or spring?
Fall.
Thunderstorms or snowstorms?
I lived in Minnesota for a while. Thunderstorms.
Oh,
Favorite Ranger in Battle for the Grid?
Hey now.
Thought I could trip you up with that one.
Pretty sneaky, sis.
Connect 4 or Uno?
Ooh.
Uno.
Driving or flying?
Driving.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Lamb or tuna fish?
I'm recently become allergic to cats. It's very sad.
No kidding.
Oh, that's sad.
I didn't used to be. I am now.
We have both in the house. We got 2 dogs.
I'm now quite allergic.
Oh no.
Just the final one was just lamb or tuna fish, and then I was going to go ahead and call the lightning round there.
Ooh, tuna.
Tuna fish over.
Big tuna fan.
I almost got the Battle for the Grid one. I was
almost there. Almost there.
The tip of my tongue. I almost said no.
Well, Jonathan, we would love to have you on again in the future if you're willing.
Yep.
If you're not willing, I totally understand. Andy, thank you for joining us, and thank you for setting this up. This was completely out of the blue, and I love it. And it's currently 9:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I know that's 6:30 for you, Jonathan. But that you're willing to do this after kind of normal human hours is phenomenal. And,
Yes, thank you so much.
We really appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come on, feel free to reach out to us. And my new publicist, Andy, will probably reach out to you in the future.
There you go.
But this has been Critony Entertainment. Like and subscribe for more content. Hit that bell button for notifications, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Farewell.
Bye.